What if I told you there are gardening secrets forgotten by time that could quadruple your pepper harvest? These aren't new fads or trendy techniques that come and go with each gardening season. Instead, they're ancient pruning methods, once essential knowledge passed down through generations of master gardeners, now tragically overlooked in our modern rush toward convenience. You think you know how to prune peppers? Think again. Most contemporary gardeners are missing out on this ancestral wisdom that literally transforms pepper yields from disappointing to absolutely extraordinary. We're about to reveal 7 forgotten pruning techniques that will not only surprise you, but also completely redefine what abundant harvest truly means for your garden. The core problem facing today's pepper growers runs deeper than poor soil or inconsistent watering. We're missing out on enormous yields because we've abandoned the ancient pruning wisdom that our gardening ancestors considered fundamental. Modern gardening has become obsessed with letting plants grow naturally, but this approach ignores centuries of accumulated knowledge about how strategic intervention can dramatically amplify a plant's productivity. Pruning isn't about hurting or stressing your pepper plants. Instead, it's about intelligently redirecting the plant's finite energy reserves toward optimal fruit production, a concept that master gardeners have understood for centuries. Every pepper plant operates like a sophisticated energy distribution system, and without proper guidance through pruning, this energy gets dispersed wastefully across unnecessary foliage and weak branches that contribute nothing to your harvest. The immediate benefit of implementing these forgotten techniques is staggering. Imagine walking into your garden and finding pepper plants so loaded with fruit that they require additional support structures. Picture harvesting twice, 3 times, or even 4 times the peppers you're currently getting from the same plants, same space, same effort. This isn't fantasy, it's the natural result of working with your plant's biology rather than against it. The first forgotten secret revolves around what ancient gardeners called sacrificial snips, a counterintuitive practice that, honestly, modern gardeners often fear to implement. This technique involves deliberately removing the very first flowers that appear on your pepper plants, along with several of the lowest sets of leaves during the plant's early establishment phase. Your instinct screams against this approach because those first blossoms represent your earliest potential harvest. But this immediate gratification mindset is precisely what prevents extraordinary yields. The mechanism behind sacrificial snips operates on a fundamental principle of plant biology that hasn't changed in thousands of years. When you remove those initial flowers, you're essentially telling your pepper plant to invest its energy in building a massive, robust foundation rather than rushing into reproduction. This seemingly harsh intervention forces the plant to develop a significantly deeper and more extensive root system, while simultaneously encouraging the formation of additional branching points throughout the main stem and early branches. The transformation that occurs after implementing sacrificial snips is, honestly, just remarkable to witness. Within 2 to 3 weeks of these initial cuts, your pepper plants will exhibit noticeably thicker stems, more vigorous leaf production, and a substantially larger overall framework. This enhanced structure becomes the platform for supporting dramatically increased fruit loads later in the season. The plants that received these early pruning interventions will ultimately produce anywhere from 40 to 60% more peppers than their unpruned counterparts, making the temporary sacrifice of those first few potential fruits an incredibly wise investment. The second forgotten technique addresses what experienced growers call the canopy conundrum, which is, the tendency for pepper plants to develop dense, impenetrable foliage that actually works against maximum production. This ancient method involves strategic thinning of the inner canopy to dramatically improve airflow circulation and light penetration throughout the entire plant structure, creating optimal conditions for sustained, heavy fruit production. Dense pepper canopies create numerous problems that directly impact your harvest potential. Poor air circulation within the plant's interior creates microclimates perfect for fungal diseases, bacterial infections, and pest infestations that can devastate your crop overnight. Additionally, when sunlight cannot penetrate to the inner branches, those areas produce weak, spindly growth with poor flowering potential, essentially becoming parasitic zones that drain energy without contributing to your harvest. The practical application of canopy thinning requires developing an eye for identifying overcrowding before it becomes problematic. Focus on removing branches that grow inward toward the plant's center, any foliage that appears yellowing or stressed in the lower interior, and shoots that cross over other branches creating dense tangles. Make your cuts clean and decisive, always cutting just above a leaf node or branch junction to encourage proper healing. The goal is creating a plant structure where you can easily see through from one side to the other, ensuring every remaining branch receives adequate light and air circulation for maximum productivity. Perhaps the most powerful of the forgotten techniques involves understanding and manipulating what ancient gardeners called energy channels, which are the pathways through which plants distribute their finite resources between vegetative growth and fruit production. This secret technique focuses on making specific cuts that force your pepper plant's energy directly into developing fruit, rather than letting it dissipate into unnecessary vegetative growth that produces impressive-looking plants but, honestly, pretty disappointing harvests. The science behind energy channels becomes clear when you understand that pepper plants naturally allocate resources based on their perceived survival needs. Left to their own devices, peppers will just keep producing new vegetative growth throughout the season, constantly diverting energy away from fruit development. By removing specific types of growth at strategic times, you basically hijack this energy distribution system and redirect those resources toward creating more flowers, setting more fruit, and developing larger, more flavorful peppers. Implementing the energy channel technique requires identifying and removing several specific types of growth. First, eliminate all suckers that develop in the crotches between main branches, since these shoots will never produce significant fruit, but do consume enormous amounts of plant energy. Second, remove any branches below the first major fork of the plant, because these lower branches typically produce small, poor-quality peppers, while robbing energy from the more productive upper regions. Finally, continuously pinch off any new vegetative shoots that appear at the tips of fruit-bearing branches, forcing the plant to channel its energy into swelling existing peppers instead of extending those branches even further. The third forgotten secret involves precise timing of pruning interventions, knowledge that ancient gardeners considered absolutely critical but, modern gardeners rarely consider. This timing revolution approach recognizes that the same pruning cut can have dramatically different effects depending on when during the plant's life cycle it's performed, making timing knowledge just as important as technique knowledge. Ancient gardeners understood that pepper plants go through distinct energy phases throughout their growing season, and successful pruning means working in harmony with these natural rhythms rather than against them. The early establishment phase demands those sacrificial snips we discussed, but attempting the same cuts during the flowering phase would devastate your harvest potential. Similarly, the techniques that maximize mid-season production can actually harm late-season fruit development if applied at the wrong time. The key timing markers that guide these ancient techniques center around major developmental transitions in your pepper plants. The transition from vegetative growth to first flowering marks your window for implementing the most aggressive structural pruning. The period immediately after fruit set begins requires switching to gentler maintenance pruning focused on airflow and light penetration. Finally, the late-season transition toward plant senescence calls for entirely different pruning strategies designed to concentrate the plant's remaining energy into ripening existing fruit rather than developing new growth. These 7 forgotten pepper pruning secrets represent more than just gardening techniques. They're your gateway to joining an exclusive community of gardeners who understand the profound difference between growing peppers and mastering pepper production. Every cut you make using these ancient methods brings you closer to harvest abundance that will amaze your neighbors, feed your family abundantly, and provide the deep satisfaction that comes from working in true partnership with nature's wisdom. The transformation in your garden begins with your very next pruning session. Choose 1 or 2 of these forgotten techniques to implement this season, document your results with photos and harvest weights, and prepare to be amazed by the difference these time-tested methods make in your pepper yields. Remember, these aren't theoretical concepts but practical wisdom proven effective across centuries of successful gardens. Don't let these secrets remain buried in your garden's potential. Subscribe to Smart Garden for more forgotten wisdom that will revolutionize your growing success, and share this video with fellow gardeners who deserve to know these life-changing techniques. Your garden's most abundant chapter is about to begin, and we're here to guide every step of your transformation from ordinary pepper grower to harvest master.